The summer of 1940 were dark days for Britain. After the evacuation of Dunkirk, France finally fell to the Nazi hordes, and the Battle of Britain was about to begin. Britain was left standing alone as the only major power still resisting Hitler. With its air force fighting desperately to hold the skies, help arrived from the most unexpected quarters. Across the oceans, from the steamy tropics of Southeast Asia, from the Federated Malay States and the Straits settlements came not only vital shipments of rubber and tin, but also bombers which Britain could use to strike back at the heart of Germany. Our story begins with Malayas War Fund campaign in 1940. In June that year, the Malay Mail launched a fund in the Malay States to rally public support to contribute towards the purchase of aircraft for the Royal Air Force. They were joined by almost every major newspaper on the peninsula, and a similar campaign was also launched in the Straits settlements. Contributions poured in from every walk of life, from schoolchildren clutching coins to planters and businessmen, civic associations, companies, and even local municipal councils. The response was so overwhelming that the Times noted on 30th July 1940 that the two funds had already reached a combined total of nearly £500,000 within just a single month. Malaya's continued efforts bore remarkable fruit. The FMS War Fund finally raised the £350,000 needed to fully equip a squadron of Wellington medium bombers. Lord Beaverbrook, Britain's Minister of Aircraft Production, proposed that these gift squadrons be formally recognised by the Air Ministry and be named after the colonies and protectorates that had raised the funds for their creation. Thus was born number 214, Federated Malay States Squadron. Not to be outdone, the Straits settlements raised £500,000 and were honoured with their own squadron of heavy bombers, Avro Manchesters. With the naming of a squadron came the honour of naming individual aircraft. The Wellingtons of the FMS Squadron proudly bore the crest of the Malayan tiger's head, and under it, names such as Kuala Lumpur, Sri Guru or Thunder, and Raja Langit, King of the Skies, were painted onto the fuselage in bold script. Later in the war, as the squadron transitioned to the B-17 Flying Fortress, names like Johor Bahru, Pahang, Alostar, and Raja Awan, King of the Clouds, and a second Sri Guru joined the fray, carrying the identity of Malaya into enemy skies. The squadron's navigation leader, Flight Lieutenant Keith James Faulkner, even had personal ties to Malaya. Before he joined the RAF, he served aboard the Bulan, a cable-laying ship belonging to P&O and based in Singapore. Interestingly, in the early months of 1942, as Singapore teetered on the brink, that same ship was repurposed for a desperate mission to evacuate Allied personnel and critical equipment. She escaped the island just 3 days before it fell to Japanese forces, surviving a perilous journey through the Bangka Straits, where Japanese aircraft bombed her relentlessly. The Bulan made it safely to Tanjung Priok in Jakarta, a small but vital victory in the catastrophe that was the fall of Singapore. The aircraft of the FMS Squadron were based at RAF Straits in Suffolk and participated in some of the most audacious night raids over Nazi-occupied Europe. In May 1941, a month of critical air offensives, the Straits Times London correspondent reported that the FMS Squadron had flown more sorties than any other unit of its type. They had also delivered the heaviest total bomb load by any medium bomber squadron in that period, a resounding testament to their courage and capability. On the 3rd of June 1941, aircraft from the squadron dropped one of Britain's newly developed Big Beautiful bombs on Berlin. Designed by the brilliant British engineer Barnes Wallis, these bombs were created to flatten entire city blocks or pierce reinforced structures. The FMS Squadron's Wellingtons were also part of a massive force of 197 bombers sent over Berlin on the nights of 7th and 8th September 1941. They returned with the loss of only one Wellington, R1874, whose entire crew sadly perished in action over the German capital. Among them was Flight Lieutenant Keith James Faulkner, the same officer who once sailed the waters of Malaya. The Malayan bombers flew missions not only over Berlin, but also against major German cities and industrial hubs such as Bremen, Cologne, Emden, and Kiel. In one daring operation, they launched a low-level attack on the German battle cruiser Gneisenau in its heavily defended berth at Kiel. That sortie earned a pilot officer the Distinguished Flying Cross, the first awarded to the squadron. Another airman was decorated with a second DFC for his breathtaking assault on Berlin's telegraph office. He flew at just 50 feet above the rooftops, strafing government buildings before escaping under a hail of enemy fire. None of this would have been possible without the generosity and spirit of the people of Malaya. Their contributions did more than buy aircraft. They forged a living bond of solidarity and sacrifice with the men who flew them. The squadron's personnel were said to be deeply proud of their association with the Federated Malay States. They asked countless questions about Malaya and its people, and even requested suggestions for authentic Malayan names for their aircraft. In response, Malaya House in London sent books, flags, and photographs to the squadron, bringing to life the land whose name they bore into battle. The tiger crest emblazoned on their aircraft was worn with pride. Contributions from Malaya naturally ceased when the country fell to Japanese forces in February 1942. But Malay's bombers flew on. They continued to rain steel and fire upon Nazi Germany, night after night, mission after mission, right until the war's end in 1945. Number 214 Squadron lived up to its Latin motto with quiet ferocity: Ultor in umbris, avenging in the shadows. Today, a memorial stands in Lichfield, Staffordshire, honouring the airmen of number 214 Federated Malay States Squadron, who gave their lives in both war and in peace. Among them are those men who flew with the roar of the Malayan tiger painted on their planes, and the hopes of a distant land riding with them. These were Malaya's bombers, and they helped turn the tide of war. The FMS Squadron was not the only RAF squadron during World War II that was closely associated with Malaya. There was also RAF Squadron 100, which was deployed to Malaya and Singapore in 1934. The squadron's motto, Sarang Tebuan Jangan Dijolok, or "Do not stir up a hornet's nest," was coined during their stay there. Equipped with single-engined Vickers Wildebeest torpedo bomber biplanes, the squadron was tasked with supporting efforts to stem the Japanese invasion of the peninsula. On 26 January 1942, a Japanese landing at Endau in Johor was attacked by 10 wildebeests of the squadron, but the obsolete biplanes were met with strong fighter opposition and intense anti-aircraft fire from the Japanese convoys. The squadron lost 6 aircraft in the initial attack and 5 more in a subsequent sortie, effectively wiping it out. But that's a story for another video. Thank you for watching this episode of my Malayan Chronicles. If you found this tale of Malaya's little-known role in the air war over Europe compelling, I'd be honored if you gave the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and rang the notification bell for future episodes. Do share your thoughts in the comments below, especially if you have family stories or reflections on this remarkable chapter of wartime history. Until next time, may the past continue to illuminate our present, and may the names of those who served, both near and far, never fade from our thoughts and memories. Cheerio!